Picture this. You're sitting in a wooden canoe in the year 1000 BC. You're surrounded by endless ocean, miles away from everything you've ever known. 6 whole days have passed since you last laid eyes on a single strip of dry land. Every direction looks completely identical. There's no magnetic compass in your pocket, no GPS satellites, no paper maps, and definitely no glowing smartphone screen to tell you where you are. Just unbroken blue water stretching out until the horizon curves down and touches the sky. But look down at the bottom of the boat. Someone is lying flat against the wooden hull with their eyes closed, completely still. They aren't sleeping. They're feeling the subtle pulse of the deep sea vibrating against their skin, listening to the water whisper directions. How did our ancient ancestors cross thousands of miles of open water without modern instruments? It wasn't a freak accident, and it certainly wasn't dumb luck. They did it intentionally, voyage after voyage, heading thousands of miles into the deep blue void, on purpose, every single time. This is the incredible, true story of humanity's greatest master navigators. We aren't talking about casually hugging the coast where you can turn back if the weather turns bad. Ancient voyagers deliberately launched into open ocean, aiming for tiny specks of land lost in a massive watery desert. The stakes were terrifyingly high. If your steering angle was off by just a couple of degrees, you would miss your island entirely and sail into oblivion. Sail right past it in the dark, and you disappear forever into the endless sea. Yet these navigators pulled off these impossible crossings repeatedly across countless generations. Masters trained apprentices for decades, building a generational library of pure mental data without writing down a single word. They mounted fleet after fleet of successful expeditions, charting routes over immense oceanic highways. They stared down raging storms, massive swell systems, and howling trade winds with pure human intellect. Every single landing was an intentional, calculated triumph of real observational science. It stands as one of the most underrated feats of human intelligence our species has ever produced. To see where this all began, we have to travel back 65,000 years into deep human history. Long ago, ancient human pioneers made an impossible voyage toward the ancient landmass of Australia and New Guinea. Even when Ice Age sea levels were at their lowest, over 70 kilometers of deep, open ocean stood in their way. To make that crossing, people had to engineer sturdy, seaworthy vessels capable of surviving treacherous open waters. They loaded up enough men, women, and supplies to found an entirely new world across the sea. Think about the timing. This was long before agriculture, long before pottery, long before almost any modern technology. They pointed their crafts directly at a horizon where no land was visible and paddled out into the unknown. And against all odds, they made it safely to the other side on purpose. It may very well be the oldest confirmed open ocean voyage in the human story, yet most history books leave it out completely. Tens of thousands of years before the pyramids, humanity had already conquered the open ocean. Fast forward thousands of years to the Pacific Ocean, where an even grander expansion was about to unfold. We're looking at an ocean triangle covering a mind-boggling 10 million square miles. Beginning in Southeast Asia, seafaring cultures set off across the largest body of water on planet Earth. They didn't have compasses, metal nails, or paper charts. Their entire toolkit was crafted from wood, bone, and pure memory. They built massive, double-hulled outrigger canoes capable of slicing through ocean swells for months at a time. Packing live crops, animals, and families, they set out to establish permanent civilizations across the sea. From Hawaii at the north to Rapa Nui in the east and Aotearoa in the south, they found and settled every single island. This was the largest maritime expansion in human history, dwarfing European ocean voyages by over 1,000 years. Yet modern history spent centuries ignoring how extraordinary this achievement really was. Which brings us to the ultimate question. How on earth did they actually do it? It all started by looking up into the vast night sky. Navigators transformed the entire dome of the night sky into a massive 360-degree mental compass. They memorized the exact rising and setting positions of around 200 individual stars along the horizon. As a guide star climbed too high in the sky to steer by, it became useless for direction. So the navigator instantly locked onto the next rising star directly behind it on the horizon, keeping the canoe on a dead straight line. By measuring star heights against the horizon with simple handspans, they could track their latitude across the ocean. Master navigators spent decades teaching these star paths to students through songs, stories, and stone circles on the beach. A navigator became a living encyclopedia, holding thousands of astronomical coordinates in their head. With no compass in hand, they could steer a razor-sharp bearing through pitch-black nights for thousands of miles. To them, the night sky wasn't just pretty scenery, it was a precise, living roadmap. But what happened when heavy clouds rolled in and hid the stars? They turned to the water itself. The ocean is never just one flat sheet of waves. It's a dynamic web of multiple swell systems crossing over each other. These deep swells are generated by massive storms churning thousands of miles away across the globe. Navigators would lie flat against the canoe's hull, closing their eyes to feel the distinct rocking frequencies of the waves. When ocean swells slam into distant islands, the land bends, reflects, and bounces those wave patterns back out to sea. Even if an island was hidden far beneath the horizon, its subtle wave echo would ripple through the ocean for miles. They were quite literally navigating the open sea, using the skin of their bodies as a sensor. A subtle change in the boat's roll told the navigator that unseen land was nearby. With a gentle push of the steering paddle, they adjusted course to follow the wave disturbance straight to shore. They didn't fight the ocean. They felt its rhythm and let the water guide them home. Every single element of the surrounding natural world was packed with hidden navigation clues. Shallow turquoise lagoons reflect light upward, painting a faint, telltale greenish tint onto the undersides of overhead clouds. Navigators could spot that tiny green glow and locate an island long before the land itself ever appeared. Then there were the seabirds. At dawn, birds like terns and boobies fly straight out to sea to hunt for fish. But at dusk, they fly in a dead straight line back to their nests on land. Follow the birds in the evening, and they become a living compass pointing straight to safety. Even deep beneath the surface at night, flashes of bioluminescent plankton illuminated underwater turbulence. These underwater light flashes, known as Telapa, shoot out like underwater lightning away from distant reefs. None of this was magic or mysticism. It was a rigorous, integrated science operating through pure human perception. When you know how to read the clouds, the birds, and the water, the entire world is guiding you. But as modern centuries rolled in, Western academia made a colossal, arrogant mistake. European scholars looked at the vast Pacific and claimed indigenous peoples couldn't possibly have navigated it on purpose. The dominant academic theory insisted that islanders were just blown off course by storms and drifted onto islands by pure accident. Think about how absurd that is. The prevailing winds blow east to west, yet the migrations moved consistently west to east, right into the wind. You cannot accidentally drift thousands of miles against the wind across 10 million square miles of ocean over and over again. For centuries, mainstream science dismissed ancestral knowledge simply because it wasn't recorded in Western textbooks. They wrote off breathtaking human genius as nothing more than a lucky roll of the dice. But that outdated myth was about to be completely destroyed once and for all. In 1976, a brave crew decided to put the ancient methods to the ultimate modern test. A historic voyage was planned that would shake modern maritime history to its core. Enter the Hokulea, a traditional double-hulled voyaging canoe built to recreate ancient crossings. The mission? Sail 2,500 perilous miles from Hawaii down to Tahiti, across the open Pacific. At the helm stood Mau Piailug, a master navigator from the tiny Micronesian atoll of Satawal. The challenge was strict. Absolutely zero modern instruments allowed. No compass, no charts, no GPS, and no radio. Day and night, Mau tracked the rising stars, read the ocean swells, and guided the vessel with unwavering calm. He adjusted sails based on wave reflections and cloud colors, steering through shifting currents with laser precision. Skeptics and academics around the world watched in disbelief as his course stayed dead on target. After 31 days at sea, the Hokulea made landfall in Tahiti, arriving precisely where Mau intended. The accidental drift theory was instantly shattered, proving the undeniable precision of traditional wayfinding. Mau didn't just sail a boat, he ignited a worldwide cultural and scientific revival that lives on today. If you want physical proof of how sophisticated this ocean science really was, look at the Marshall Islands. Ancient navigators built intricate devices known as stick charts using palm ribs tied with coconut fiber and shells. Tiny cowrie shells marked the positions of islands, while bent palm sticks mapped the complex curves of ocean swell refractions. But these weren't road maps you unfolded during a voyage. They were sophisticated classroom tools used on the beach to test and train young apprentices. Students studied the charts until the entire hydrodynamic system was permanently memorized in their minds. When the canoe launched into the surf, the physical stick chart stayed on land. The map lived entirely inside the navigator's head. Modern wave physicists were stunned to discover that these stick charts accurately modeled complex wave diffraction dynamics. Ancient people were mapping advanced fluid mechanics using palm sticks and seashells centuries before modern physics existed. They were the world's very first tactile ocean maps, built purely for the human mind. The Pacific wasn't the only ocean where humans conquered the deep using pure observation. Thousands of miles away, Norse sailors were braving the cold, unforgiving waters of the North Atlantic toward Iceland, Greenland, and North America. But the North Atlantic was a totally different beast, freezing, foggy, and blanketed in thick gray cloud cover. When overcast skies completely hid the sun and stars for days, Viking sailors needed a completely different toolkit. Ancient sagas describe them using a translucent calcite crystal known as a sunstone. By holding the crystal up to the sky and rotating it, it split polarized light, pinpointing the sun's exact hidden position behind heavy storm clouds. They also carried ravens on long voyages, releasing them high into the air when they suspected land was close. If the ravens circled and returned to the boat, no land was near. But if it caught the scent of shore, it flew straight toward land, never returning. The sailors simply set their sails and followed the raven straight to a new coastline. Different oceans, different cultures, and totally different tools, but driven by the exact same brilliance. Read everything, trust the pattern, and find the way. What ties all of these incredible voyagers together is that none of it required computers, engines, or modern instruments. It demanded something far more impressive, a disciplined, lifelong attention to every single detail of the natural world. Navigators were walking archives of memory, carrying an entire ocean's worth of knowledge passed down across generations. From 65,000 years ago in Australia to the far reaches of the Pacific and Atlantic, ancient humans mapped our planet through pure perception. Today, you can pull out your smartphone and let a little blue dot tell you exactly where you stand on Earth. The orbiting satellite technology in your pocket is brand new. But the deep human need behind it, the burning desire to explore the unknown and find your way home, is as old as humanity itself. Someone was reading the stars and dreaming of the horizon long before the first modern boat was ever built. We have always been explorers, connected by the sky, the water, and our shared human memory. No matter the ocean, no matter the distance, when we trust our perception, the human spirit always finds the way.